This podcast is brought to you by lilybadcock.com and the Confidence Academy, giving you the confidence to be who you truly are. This is the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lily Badcock and I am a transformational confidence coach, and I'm here with a message for you. The anxiety and overwhelm you've been experiencing is not something to be feared or avoided. It's also not something that gets to define who you are as a person. No matter who you are, no matter what your story is, I know that you get to live a life of fulfillment and joy. It's my absolute pleasure to bring this podcast series to you in collaboration with some phenomenal people from all over the world who have walked the same path as you. Together, we will share our stories, our challenges, and our triumphs, with the intention of helping you to see that it's possible for you too. Anxiety may be something you live with, but it doesn't get to define who you are or how you live your life. So stand by for some powerful conversations, deep realizations, and the occasional F-bomb. So get those headphones in if you're around sensitive ears, and stand by. This is going to be fun. Hey, welcome back. It has been a very exciting week over here at TCA HQ with some very exciting developments in the pipeline. I can't say too much for now, but I will say that if music and singing has always been your go-to when you're feeling anxious or stressed, then you're gonna want to watch this space. Okay, that's all I can say. On that note though, did you know that I've now launched my very own online choir? Whoop whoop! Of course, if you know me, then you'll know it's so much more than just a regular choir, but it's definitely where you want to be if singing is something that you love to do. If you want to give it a go, click the link in the show note for your free trial. Now on with the show, and this week my guest is the amazing Mimi Bishop, who is a business and life coach from New York. Mimi is co-founder of The Resting Mind, and she works with Generation X women, many of whom are feeling as though they are struggling with things like stress, overwhelm, and a lack of confidence. This was yet another powerful conversation, and as always, I would love your feedback, so please do come and keep the conversation going over in our Facebook group. The link is in the show notes as always. Mimi is my guest this week for our live Q&A, so keep your eyes peeled for the announcements. But for now, get comfy and prepare to be inspired like never before. Let's go. Hi guys, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Lily Badcock, and today I have the wonderful Mimi Bishop, who is coming to us live from New York this morning. Mimi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Yeah, I'm so thrilled to meet you as well. And so Mimi is a business and life coach, co-founder of The Resting Mind, and co-host of the podcast Make Your Life Magnificent with Jackie and Mimi. So already I'm excited to have a fellow podcaster on the show, and I want to dig into all of this. So first of all, before we get started, why don't you let everybody know more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me here. I have to point out, I am sitting here listening to your beautiful, lovely accent, and I'm just so aware of the juxtaposition of my brashy New York accent against that. But I'm Mimi Bishop. I am a business and life coach. And as you said, I'm co-founder of The Resting Mind, and we coach Generation X women. So both my business partner and I are Gen X women. So we say that we are a company for Gen X women by Gen X women. And we know what it's like to be dealing with kind of everything coming at you at every angle. And so Jackie and I were both feeling this ourselves. We both had very large New York City corporate careers and had stepped off to become coaches. And then we're connected through a mutual friend. And surprisingly enough, we started to hear more and more about Generation X women feeling these different pressures and literally being awake at 2 a.m, worrying about things like finances and their kids, and then maybe their marriage is falling apart, or they're nervous about their parents getting older and all of these things. And at the same time, Generation X women were the first group of ladies that were told you can have it all. So you can have the perfect house and the perfect marriage and the big job. And Jackie and I feel like you can have it all, but not necessarily at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And this message of being perfect and we're just getting burned out and burnt out, but almost embarrassed to ask for help because on the outside it looks like we have it all, and what are you complaining about? And still feeling inside that something is missing. And what happens is we were hearing more and more about people not feeling confident or dealing with tremendous anxiety or panic attacks or depression.
Mm.
And so we really wanted to set out and help women. And so
Yeah.
that's where it was born.
I love that. There's so much to dig into already just from that one statement. So before we go any further, in case anybody listening isn't aware of that term, Generation X women, can you just clarify who that would
Sure.
be?
Absolutely. So I'm almost laughing to myself because England, where you're from, really has such a big part of Generation X women, and our fond memories. And why I say that is because of the second British invasion of music while we were growing up. But Generation X women are generally women that were born between 1965 and 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're and there's a little bit of a mix, like, there some of the older millennials are considered Generation X women. What's interesting is we are really the generation that bridges the boomers, who everyone knows about, and the millennials. And we are, we did not grow up with a cell phone in our hand, right? And yet we are very savvy. We've adapted better than some of, the boomer generation, where technology is just very overwhelming and kind of frightening sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
I so relate to that. And that's me. Like, I'm one of those, I was born in 78. And I think you're right. It's, we were the first ones to transition from that life of, no internet, no cell phone in your hand. Like, literally, if you wanted to know something, you had to go and find an encyclopedia to look it up.
That's right. You had to go to the library. Right. That's right. And we had one encyclopedia set that belonged to my mother.
Yeah.
That was like probably from the 50s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's how we did work. My niece, she was astounded when my brother was telling her that when we were growing up, we had one television set. We watched what my father wanted to watch all together. Yeah. And when the channel had to be changed, there was no remote. One of us kids were the remote. She was like, what?
I know. I tell my kids this, when they're fighting over the 5 million channels to choose from and the multiple devices that they can have it on. I'm like, dude, there was one TV and, we got cartoons on a Saturday morning for a couple of hours and that was it.
And that was it. And you did not miss that, right? Because that was your window. It was a few hours. That's right. Saturday morning. That was it.
I used to love Saturday mornings. Yes. And I think it's really interesting. I've never really thought about it, but you're right. So many of us are riddled with this anxiety. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's because we've been introduced to, first of all, this really exciting concept that we can have more out of our life. The people that went before us, the women that went before us, it was kind of a given that, you just had to do your part. You had to sort of sit in the shadow of your husband, or you just had to raise the kids. And like, nobody really saw that as a massive achievement. It was just something that you had to do. And, you were a bit unusual if you wanted to do anything different. If those women wanted to run their own business, they would just be looked at like they had grown a third head, and it wasn't supported. And so, it's so exciting for us because we're the first ones to be told, you can have it all. You can have the house, the car, the money, the job, the kids, like the husband, like, the holidays or whatever.
Yes.
And that's great. And then we feel like, oh, if I don't have those things, then either I failed or I'm wasting my opportunity. There's a real heavy sense of responsibility, I think, with our generation.
Yes.
People suffered in the past. You've got opportunities those people didn't have. So why are you sat? I know I felt like this. Like, why am I anxious? I shouldn't be anxious. I've got the best life ever and I should be grateful. And there's a real heaviness with that responsibility. Almost like we're not allowed to feel our feelings because we should be grateful, That's
exactly it. Like, I should feel grateful. I have all of this stuff. And the women that went before us, especially the boomer women, some of them made like so many inroads and they worked so hard to open the door for us. And I think like you said, that word responsibility, it's like the door was finally opened for us where we had opportunity. And it was like, if we didn't seize that, then, we were failing. We were failing. And you, at the same time, we were still expected to have, be the perfect wife or have the perfect home. And I think also even just social media has added to that, even though this is, a much newer situation where we feel like my house has to be perfect. This has got to be, I'm sure you're familiar with Martha Stewart, right? When I was younger, and climbing up at a big corporate career. And so I worked in Manhattan. I had almost a 2-hour commute. And I had this huge job. And yet on my weekends, I felt this pressure to pretend I was Martha Stewart. And so I'd be cooking gourmet meals and doing all this stuff. And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still feel like that's a thing. And, the modern day Martha Stewarts are now these younger 20-something-year-olds on Instagram with their perfect houses, and they're sharing, and it's great because they're sort of sharing their tips and going, oh, this is how you can have a home and rah, rah, rah. But I think, again, that feeds into this tendency to look at other people and think, I'm not like that, so therefore there's something wrong with me. And
that's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, we're coming off the back of an enormous wave, like almost a 10-year wave of the rise in self-development, which is brilliant. And it's woken so many people up to their potential, and it's woken so many people up to their possibilities. But I feel like there's been an undercurrent this whole time of there's something that needs to be fixed. There's something wrong with you. You're like, if you've got this, and this, it's okay, you can fix it, but you're wrong if you're feeling X, Y, Z.
Yes, that's exactly it. So, it's beautiful to be inspired by beautiful things on Instagram or Pinterest. Personally, I love that kind of thing. That is my thing. I'm so lit up and inspired by it. But if you are not inspired by it, or you are in a season in your life where you can't aspire to that, there's nothing wrong with you. And that's the message, right? So, there's nothing wrong with having a beautiful home or having a big job, but if you are feeling it's coming at the expense of your mental wellness or your ability to feel good about yourself, that's where you need to make the adjustment, right? Because that's what will creep up with you and wake you up in the middle of the night gasping for air and panic, right? So,
and this is actually the crux of it. I think it's, we've got it on the back foot. We think to feel less anxious or to feel more fulfilled, we have to change all of these things, right? We have to tick all these boxes. And it's on the one hand, it's like, oh, that's possible. So, okay, I can feel excited about that. And then on the other hand, it feels so hugely overwhelming because guess what? We're already drowning under our to-do lists. We already can't cope. And so even if it's something that is, seemingly going to help you, like taking out a gym membership or, going for a walk, it's just adding to your to-do list. Like even journaling or meditation will feel like it's another thing to achieve. And it's another reason to beat yourself up at the end of the day if you didn't achieve it. And I think the crux of this whole message is you get to shift your perception. You don't have to change anything physical first. You can change your perception. And I shared about this recently, that I had this epiphany while I was doing the washing up, because I was listening to one of the people that I like to follow, and I was noticing how calm and sort of serene she was in her energy. And then I was thinking about my energy, and I was like, I'm not like that. Like I don't have much of a calm bone in my body because I'm like, whoa, go, 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 go. Like, that's just me.
That's Jackie, my business partner. She is full of energy.
Yeah. And you know what? I've learned to love that about myself. But for the longest time, I would look at these other people, especially spiritual people who were very they were having their photo shoots of them meditating in the middle of a road and, with all their crystals around them. And I was just like, oh God, that's not me. And then this feeling of that's who I have to be before I can be seen as a spiritual leader or before anyone will take me seriously. And what I've realized is it's utter bullshit, because who I am is what is the magic formula. And the epiphany that came in while I was washing up was, there are warriors of peace, there are warriors of strength, there are warriors of joy. And we all have the ability to tap into each of those things, but we all lead with one. And I just feel like I noticed that I'm actually drawn to the people who are strong and the people who are peaceful, because I'm already bringing the joy. So I tend to be drawn to the very peaceful meditation type crystal people because I'm like, oh, I see. It's like we were talking before we went live on air, this whole idea of collaboration, this whole idea that we're not supposed to stand up on our own, we're not supposed to do it alone. We are part of a matrix and we all come together. And if that's true, and I'm getting a vision of like, you know, like how DNA all connects.
Yes.
It's like we're this like spiritual DNA, and the warriors of peace are going to go find the warriors of joy, and the warriors of joy and peace are going to find the strength, and we're all going to come together and we all support each other. Because, you know, I know so many people who I would class as warriors of peace who worry that they're boring, and they're like, oh, I wish I was more like you because I'm so boring. And I'm like, you're not boring, you're you, and what you bring is beautiful. And it's this entire umbrella of, I'm not okay as I am, and I have to be more like XYZ. And it's like, no, your only job is to be yourself and to love who you are and to celebrate that. And yes, to lean on other people if they bring something to you that, you know, balances you out, fabulous. But it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're less than. It means you're beautiful. And when you come together, it's magic.
That's it, exactly. And it all starts with you within. So we have been trained to always look outside, right? What can I add? What do I need to do? I have to go to the gym. I have to do this. I have to achieve this and check this off the list, right? And that's not what is going to make us feel better. It's how we start. I have a very dear friend. He's creative. We used to work together, and I would say, can you design a logo? And he'd say, he's from Brazil, so he's got this accent, and he was, sweetie darling, he said, it has to come from within.
Yeah.
And I always, we're still very close, and he's right. Everything needs to come from within, right? And so you have to really tap into what is important to me and what do I bring to the table, and not look for what needs to be fixed, because nothing needs to be fixed. You just need to tap into your magic of what you're bringing to the table. Like you said, I'm bringing joy, right? I don't need to fix myself and become more peaceful. I need to spread my message of joy.
Exactly.
That's all I need to do, you know? And that's where it really comes together. Jackie and I, we work, what's a little bit different about the way we approach coaching is we use a combination of brain science and neuroscience and energy leadership.
Love that.
Yeah. And so much, everything is based on energy, right? And you, like we talked about earlier before we went live, you said, I started to attract people. And that's because you're in the energy level where you're attracting the right people. And it may sound very woo or out there, but it's a matter of physics at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so your like attracts like. So what we do with the resting mind is we start to teach people how to tap into their own energy levels and shift them upward, right? And we do that using some techniques based in brain science to change the way you think so that you can check, you can really tap into the energy level that you want, and then you're feeling better. And that's where it comes from within, right?
Yeah. So, I love that. And I just want to circle back to that statement that your friend said, about the logo, because I so resonate with that. I mentioned earlier, again, before we were live, that I have my choir, and, I write vocal arrangements for that choir. And beautiful. I can categorically state that I'm the queen of doing that. Whenever I've been in any program and they've said, what's your zone of genius? What's the thing that you're good at? That's one of the things I absolutely know I'm good at. And here's the thing, I don't know if my harmonies are correct in terms of, like, I've never taken a course in harmonies. I've never learned how to write music officially. I don't know. I don't have any of that knowledge. It all comes from within. And I love that you said that, because I've had jobs previously where I would be asked to write an arrangement, and they were like, I'm going to need this arrangement by then, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that. I'm like, I can't, like, it has to, like, and it makes you sound like such a diva, but you're like, darling, I have to drop in, like, it just has to, like, you're just going to have to wait. It's going to drop in when it's meant to. And you know, there would be times where I'll be, I don't know, doing something else, and I'll suddenly think of a song, and my thing is mashup. So I just seem to have this God-given gift of being able to hear one song, and then I can hear other songs that go with it. And that's how I write my arrangements. And it means that the people in my choir get to learn harmonies really easily, because all they've got to do is sing the different songs, and then it all comes together. But you know, whenever somebody says to me, how did you do that? I'm like, I didn't do that. It came through me, like someone else. I actually think I maybe channel Freddie Mercury or some genius like that. It's not me. Like it can't be me.
He is a fabulous person to channel if you're channeling someone.
You know what? I tried to teach Bohemian Rhapsody to a choir once, and that is some mathematical shizness. Like, I was there with 2 Mackie speakers in each of my ears trying to hear all the parts, and I was like, this guy was a genius, like a genius.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, did I see that one yet? I don't think I have.
It's so good. Bohemian Rhapsody. Is that what it's called now that I'm thinking
I think
about
it is, yeah.
Yeah, it was so good. And they really go into detail of when he really orchestrated the you know, that whole arrangement, and how he had the rest of the band members go like really crazy to get those notes and the harmonies. And
do you know what, as well?
And really enjoy it.
I need to see it. I know I'm going to get emails now going, how have you not seen that film?
He was a genius. The best, you know, sometimes I think I unfortunate, well, you're probably not surprised with an accent like this. I have a terrible singing voice, but I appreciate music so much. Actually, a tremendous Beatles fan. I don't know if you are.
My mom is a next level Beatles fan. Like
me too.
Like, I'm surprised there isn't an injunction out against her. She would still leave my dad for Paul McCartney now. It's true. Everyone knows it as well. It's just accepted.
Huge fan. I'm a George fan, but I love them all. You know, I love them all. But I have to say, so sometimes I think in my mind, if I was ever on a podcast or something and interviewed, like, who do you think is the best guitarist, and who do you think? So I think Paul McCartney, hands down, is the best musician, all around musician ever. Freddie Mercury, best voice.
Oh God, yeah. And do you know what? Not many people disagree with that. Like, it's a pretty universal thing. He's right up there. And do you know the thing that really hit me as well, while you were talking about your friend, and you know, and this idea of dropping in and just knowing that it comes from you, it was this vision of the amount of people that are feeling sad, anxious, depressed, and sometimes to the point where they want to take their own life because they feel like they don't count. And it's my mission, it's part of my mission, to let more people know that their magic is valid. Like, it doesn't matter how random your gift feels. Like, one of my gifts is when people are singing with me, I channel songs that they should sing, and all of the time I will recommend these songs to them, and it ends up being either a song that means something massive to them, or it sparks a memory that they needed to clear. And it's so magic. But for the longest time I was like, I don't know why I can do this. Like, this feels so random. Like, you know, some people find cures for diseases, and some people, you know, make their name. And I was like, why can I do this? But it's all becoming clear now.
Because if you impact one person's life, you just said something so important. You said, you know, my mission is to let people know that they're okay, because sometimes that depression, the anxiety has become so much. They're almost thinking about, like, I can't do this anymore. If you helped one human being on this planet because you said, this came through me, and you saved their life, that is just as important as someone curing cancer. You know, you're still saving a soul.
Exactly.
It's incredible. Exactly. You know,
and it's not just that. It's not just about saving somebody's life so they get to stay earthside. When somebody recognizes their own power truly, then it's a ripple effect, because then they impact the world. Like, that's how the world's going to change. It's not about one person, it's about all of us. And You know, that's the message that I drive home constantly. Like, there are not these kind of golden tainted people that got chosen.
No,
Every
we're
single
all
one of you is chosen. You're here. If you're here, you got picked, right?
That's
You made
right.
the team.
You made the team. I love that. You made the team.
Yeah.
And what happens is, again, from an energetic perspective, so many of us are operating from what we would call a catabolic energy level, which is we're pushing away the things that are nudging us because we think that there's no value. We don't understand
Yes.
how they fit. So we're
Mm.
pushing that away, and it's keeping us in a low level energy.
Yeah.
When we tap into that, we're automatically going into an anabolic level.
Mm.
And that's where that ripple effect comes out, because we're stepping into what we are meant to do. No, it's not our business how out there it sounds, or right? Like, it's just not. If
Yeah.
it feels good in that way that we know, feels good because it's coming from a higher level,
Yeah.
then we've got to follow that. And I
Yeah.
think the problem is we spend so much time pushing against that, and that's where the anxiety comes in.
100%. I've been there.
Me too.
You know, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, that it's always like two sides. I've always known what I was supposed to do. I've always known I was meant to sing. I've always known that was my thing. And I've always questioned it. And I've always told myself that I'm not good enough and that I shouldn't do it. And, you know, when I lost my voice, which was the whole catalyst for my own anxiety, amongst other things, when I lost my voice, I really started to believe that I'd been wrong that whole time.
Oh.
And that and that's what caused me to lose my faith. I completely disconnected from everything I'd ever known, because I was like, my whole life has been a lie. I'm not supposed to be a singer. I'm not even good at it. I certainly shouldn't be helping other people do it, because I can't even look after my own voice. And all of that crap started coming in. And I went so far away from what I was meant to be doing. And even as recently as this year, that happened. Again, like, any time I get to this, it's always an up level, but it always feels like a breakdown. When suddenly, when everything falls apart and you're just like, and you feel like you're left with nothing. And then I look at what I've got and I'm like, which way am I supposed to go? And I will always go, oh yeah, no, I'm probably not supposed to be a singer. I'm probably not supposed to do that. And I try and pull into a different direction. Now, for a start, there's purpose to all of that. And I certainly wouldn't have learned that I'm a confidence coach, and I certainly wouldn't have had my spiritual awakening if I had just been allowed to bumble along going, oh yeah, I'll just sing some karaoke for a while. Like, there's purpose to all of it. But what has saved me in recent years, and I still have wobbles from time to time, but what pulls me through almost immediately now is that absolute faith. And it's that, you said something a minute ago, which was, that this is your purpose and it's coming from a higher place. And so then who are we to question that, right? And I think, whether people are religious or not, or spiritual or whatever, like, just try and hear this message. Just imagine for a minute that that's true. And you've been sent down here by some divine power to unleash your brilliance in the world. And then you get down here and go, yeah, no, I don't think that's it. Like, are we going to go back home, which is where I think we go when we pass on? Are we going to get back home and go, yeah, no, I didn't do that thing. I didn't think I was very good at it. Like, they're just going to be like, what? Are you serious?
Right. Because what happens is we look, again, this kind of comes full circle. We look outside for all of the indicators, right? So here we think, I need to do X, Y, X, Y, and Z. I need to do this. This is because we are looking outside and we're looking at all of these images, and we've bought into, well, I'm successful if I'm a doctor, but I'm not successful if I'm a gardener. I don't know, I'm making that up, but but it's really, at the end of the day, there's really no difference.
No.
Right.
And I've got so much is coming in. I can't even say the words fast enough. Like, so much is dropping in. This is such a brilliant conversation. But, I just want everyone listening to take a minute, because I know there's going to be people listening going, yeah, no, not me. Like, I'm not special. I haven't got a gift. I can't do blah, blah, blah. Right. Let me just say, I've run my choir for 15 years. I realized, in the beginning, I was in that choir because I wanted to be there. That's the important thing to say. I was led there from passion and joy first, serving myself first. then I had the opportunity to continue it when the other people didn't want to run it anymore. And I still thought I was doing that for myself. It was only a few years later that somebody in that choir said to me, "You've changed our entire family's life." And it was the husband of one of the members. And I had no idea at the time, but she had been in hospital the year before and had almost died because of various things. And the doctor, as part of her rehabilitation, the doctor had said, try and find something that you enjoy doing, or find a hobby that you've always wanted to do. And she'd always wanted to sing. And that's how she found me. And I didn't know any of this. To me, she was just somebody coming in that wanted to sing. And then I was like, do you want to join the choir? And like everyone, she was like, oh, I can't sing and I'll just stand at the back. Within 2 weeks, she was up the front because, you know, and you said it yourself, oh, because of my accent, I bet I can't sing. Immediately, that makes me want to go, I can tell you how to sing. Like, if you can talk, you can sing. Like, everything else is bullshit. You can absolutely learn it. And it was the first time that I realized that this thing I was doing carried so much more weight than just me. Like, I just did it because I love to sing every week. That was literally it. And
what
this is
favorite...
how...
I'm sorry. I'm
go.
just trying to know, what are your favorite things to sing?
Oh, God. Okay. So I love musical theatre, but I think my absolute favorite things are funk and soul. Like, give me Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Alicia Keys, Angie Stone, Jill Scott. Like,
I love Jill
Mary
Scott.
J. Blige.
Yeah.
Love it.
That is soul music. Like, that is,
and
in every sense of the word. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I just think, you know, it's so powerful. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, this is something bigger than me. And I know that since that point, countless people have come through my choir, or they've worked with me, and okay, they've learned to sing, but that's like, I throw it away now, almost like, yeah, blah blah, like, you'll learn to sing. It's so not the point of why people come to me, because they build that confidence, they know who they are, they get the confidence then to try something new, to start that business, to get into that relationship, or to leave one that isn't working, or it gives them the courage to take the step that they were always meant to take. And that's the magic I bring. But the reason I'm telling that story is because every single person listening has the same power. Now, there was a time where I was training to be a vocal coach, and I didn't feel like a very good vocal coach because I'm just not very studious. And I know now it's because I'm so led by soul that I don't like following somebody else's blueprint. That isn't soul led for me. Like, I like to go from my gut, from my heart. That's how I roll. I could have spent all of those years just struggling by trying to be a vocal coach, not tapping into my true brilliance. I could, like, even before that, I could have followed what my parents wanted me to do. They wanted me to be a teacher, which I think is kind of funny because I sort of am. It's just not in the way that they were hoping.
Right.
But you know, I could have been a really mediocre teacher in a school somewhere to please my parents. And this was the other point I wanted to come to, because you were talking earlier about, you know, the boomers and the people that came before us. The amount of times my parents say shit to me that they don't realize is so damaging. But like, even yesterday, was it yesterday? I was talking with my mum, and she literally said the line to me, oh, well, at some point you've just got to realize that life can't be easy. Like, it has to be hard. And I was like, what?
No,
like, that is so the absolute opposite of everything I know and believe to be true. And then, but you know, and then I heard that with no judgment. I just smiled and was like, well, of course, this is why we're all struggling, because we've been brought up having these beliefs rammed into us. And you know, and being like, my dad,
and we're looking, then our brain looks for that.
Exactly.
Our brain is seeking that out.
I've heard so many times, you'll never make money as a singer. You can't be successful as a singer. You know, not everyone can be Kylie Minogue. You know, not everyone can be Adele. I'm like, no, because that's Adele, but I can be Lily Badcock. And if I tried to fit into someone else's mold, I would just be an okay version of me, right?
That's right.
Because I've got the balls now to go, no. Like, I'm thinking now of that song from The Greatest Showman, This Is Me, because it's like, no, this is who I am. And I actually think that's bollocks. I think I can make money as a singer. I think I can be absolutely successful when I let myself be me, and when I let go of all of that conditioning that told me that doesn't work, that doesn't work. All right, it might not work for some people, but guess what? It was never their path. If it didn't work for them, it was never their path. And I think, you know, we're the ones, we've got to grow these enormous balls. And that's why your work is so important, because you've got to have massive cojones to stand up and go, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to forge my path.
Yes, I can't tell you, especially after I left my corporate job. I'm in a big job, and I left, and people were, I have to say, the people closest to me, my husband and my parents, never said this to me, thank God. But many other people did. They were like, especially in the beginning, they were like, yeah, you should just go back. You need to go back to work. And I was working my ass off, like, you know, but making no money in the beginning, working, but I knew the vision. I knew that it was there, and but on paper it wasn't. And, you know, my accountant or lawyer was like, tell your wife she needs to go back and get a job. Like, she's crazy. And I was like, no, but it's there, it's happening. And, you know, and if I listened to that, I would still be waking up at 2 a.m. miserable because, you know, on paper, I had the job, I had the big career, but it wasn't what I was meant to do.
No, exactly that. And when
And
you
it
know
has not
that,
been easy. And that's something else I do want to point out. I mean, there are times, I'm sure even you know that it's not always, sometimes I question myself. I'm like, maybe they are right, you know, like, and I have to really ground myself. It wasn't all rainbows and daisies. I didn't leave the big job and like jump into success.
no,
You know, there were times where I was like, this is one of the hardest things I've done. And I've done some pretty hard things, you know, and it felt hard. So
yeah. No, I so resonate. And just to underline what you said, there's been countless times since I embarked on this, you know, journey of working for myself, which, by the way, happened completely by accident. There was no plan, which has been half of my battle, because I've always felt like, oh, well, I never planned for this, so therefore it can't work. Again, conditioning, like, if you don't plan, you fail, right?
Right.
So it was like, oh, well, I just fell into this. And I know my parents thought I was nuts when I moved here. And, you know, I literally left my job, left my marriage, moved 3 counties, set myself up, you know. And I just think, you know, there's been so many times, like you said, where I've gone, oh, this is stupid. I'm not making money. I'm not making a difference. Like, let me look for a job. And I can remember several times scrolling the job ads. The last time I did that was a long time ago now. And I couldn't read the screen for the tears in my eyes, because I knew I wasn't meant to go to work. And it was literally, my human was doing what it thought it should do. And my soul was screaming at me like, no, this is not what you're meant to do. And I couldn't even read the job description because I was crying. And my husband was like, what are you doing? He was like, don't do that. Like, if it's making you that unhappy, don't do it. There was a very profound moment though, when I realized, and I can't remember how long ago it was now, it was quite a long time ago, where I just had this realization. And I was like, oh my God, I can't give up on this now, because I'm so certain that it's what I'm supposed to do, that I'm never going to give up. And it was kind of terrifying and comforting at the same time.
It is, because like, you know that there's no end date. You're like, I will do whatever it takes to make this happen.
Yeah. And I might have wobbles, and I might, you know, look at the job ads sometimes. Yeah. And then I always come back to, no, you know, you can't give up on this. Like, you know, I liken this to when people wake up in the morning, you know, when you're in a really lovely sleep and you're having a really nice dream, and then something penetrates and you're kind of aware, but you're not fully awake yet. But once that noise has come in, like it might be a rubbish truck outside, or it might be an alarm going off or something. Once your awareness is there, you cannot get back to sleep. No matter how hard you try, you can't fall back to sleep. You can't get back into the dream.
That's a great analogy.
That's how it feels to wake up to your purpose. Like, you might still have your eyes shut and you might be fighting it every step of the way, but your soul knows. It knows who you are. It knows what you're meant to do. So it's going to be amused while you go around trying to do the human things, but it's like, nah, you know what you're meant to do. You're not going to give up.
And the other thing is this, you know, it's hard to follow the path, right? Because it's truly, you're going to get the obstacles in so many ways. It's hard. And working for myself and leaving, you know, corporate has pushed me and pulled me and grown me in so many ways. In so many ways, in so many ways, it's harder
Yeah.
than doing something that is, you know, dealing with the discomfort of going against your soul's work, right?
Yeah.
But it's, the discomfort is so much more worth it.
Exactly. I'm
It
just
stretches
looking
you.
for, yeah.
It's the discomfort that grows you. It's not the discomfort that keeps you up at 2 a.m, like because your heart's palpitating because you're so anxious. You know,
Exactly
you have
that.
anxiety, but it's a different kind of anxiety. So why
Yeah.
not go towards you're going to feel crappy no matter which way. Why don't you go
Yeah.
through to the growth, not the thing that's going
Exactly.
to suck the life out of you.
Exactly. And just as you were saying that, I was just tapping to try and find a quote that Jim Carrey said, which is exactly that. And he says, oh no, my thing's come up. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Yeah.
You know, it's exactly that. You're going to be challenged. Whatever you do, you may as well make it worth it. You may as well let yourself be challenged in the name of doing something you feel called to do.
Yeah.
You know, life is going to throw curveballs at you, no matter what you do, no matter who you are. There's like, that's the experience. We've all signed up for it, I believe. So
yes, I do
you know,
too.
there is no way to avoid that. But actually, you're right. There's a difference between feeling anxious because you're pushing yourself through growth and feeling anxious because you're not living the life you're meant to live. There's no worse feeling than that, than knowing that you're meant for something else. There's no worse feeling, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think that's where so many of us, the despair comes in. And, you know, so if you can just lean, for anyone listening, if you can just lean into, even if you're unsure of what the next step is, so many of the women we work with, especially as Generation X, they have gotten to this point and they're like, I can't go anymore. I don't know what and I don't know what I want. Like so many of them are stuck. And so, you know, just lean into just a bread, like look for the pinprick of light that's starting to come through, you know, and follow that, even if it's just a teeny bit, and it will get brighter for you.
Yeah, so true.
And don't question it, just follow it, you know.
Exactly, because we're so conditioned to think, you know, it's almost a default setting, isn't it, to go, oh, I wonder if I could do that. Oh no, I can't do that because blah blah blah. Like that is such a default setting. And it's just taking a minute to let yourself feel that nudge, like you said, look for the little pinprick of light, and then ignore everything that comes up in your mind about why that's not possible, why you shouldn't do it, and recognize that actually that isn't the truth. It certainly isn't your truth, and it's more likely to just be something that's been put into you from the beliefs and experiences of the people that went before you. But you know, we are the change makers. We're the ones that are coming to go, actually it's a bit different now. You know, we don't have to, just because it was always that way, it doesn't mean it has to continue being that way. And I think we've been given a really important job. You were talking about this Generation X. I feel like, I mean, we sound like superheroes, don't we? It does sound like the X-Men or something from Marvel. It's like we've been sent to go, whoa, like what isn't working? I'm like, hang on, what is this shit that we've been doing for 100 years? Like, let's just not do that anymore. How about that? You know?
Exactly.
But yeah, we're going to get a bit messy trying. That's the thing. And, you know, that's where it gets hard, because we're in this place of, oh, but, you know, but you told me my life could be perfect and you told me I could have everything I want. And I don't want to feel like this. I don't want it to be hard. Well, you know, you can have everything you want, but you're also a human being and you're going to have a human experience.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I think also, if we think back to our youth, you know, we were so edgy, and, you know, we kind of grew up with like the punk rockers. I had one side of my head shaved, you know, at one point when I was a kid. Like, we did crazy things. Like, tap into that. That's who we are, you know.
That is such a good point. You know, I had a friend of mine bought me a style appointment for my birthday a couple of years ago. And it was just this appointment where somebody goes through your clothes and they give you advice on, you know, what you should wear and, you know, what suits you. And I had to fill out a questionnaire, and it was all about, what did you wear when you were at college? Like, what were you wearing when you were sort of 18, 19, 20? What were your choices? And I remembered that I would deliberately choose the most outlandish clothes. Like,
me too.
I had these red velvet wide leg trousers, if my best friend's listening, she's going to be laughing because she's going to remember this, but I had this big frilly shirt and then this long black waistcoat and this leather hat that was from Top Man, and I was really proud of the fact that it was a man's hat and I was wearing it, and my hair was bright red and it was plaited at the front, and like the craziest makeup, like, you know, foundation several hundred shades lighter than my actual skin tone, and you know, and I had this thing where I'd never wear mascara. I don't know why. It was always eyeliner and lipstick, but never mascara. And all of that went into this questionnaire, and then this lady was like, okay, well, let's have a look at what you're wearing. And ironically, I'm wearing one of the things today. So I'm showing Mimi, you guys can't see, but it's a grey sweatshirt and it says, this is me on the front.
I love it.
And I showed her it, and it's one of my favorite jumpers still. But she looked at it, she said, well, it's funny. She said, because that couldn't be less you if you tried. Like, it's grey, it's baggy, it's oversized, and it couldn't be less you if you tried. She was like, where are the bright colors? Like, you know, where's the outlandish person? And I was like, oh my God, I lost that person.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's
I
like,
lost
how
that.
can we tap into that a little bit, right? Like, because that's our edge. That's our brilliance.
Yeah, I know.
I love hearing you like describe this. Please, can you send me a picture?
Oh, I have to find it. I will have to get on my mum and dad. There's definitely, because I used to get my friends to take pictures of me because I was absolutely convinced I was going to be a model.
Me too. Me too. That was like my dream. I haven't thought about that in years. I used to scour the magazines and I loved all of that. I thought like I was really going to be it, and like just so edgy
and you know what, like this feels like really vulnerable to share, but I will, because that's my job on this podcast. But I used to look at myself in the mirror and I used to go, you're so special, like let the world see that. Like I just knew I was special.
Yeah.
And it sounds really vulnerable to say that because it sounds like a bit ego and, you know, and a bit arrogant, but and I think that's why I was led to then be a singer. And it was all like everything I was led to, whether it was modeling, dancing, I did as well, and singing. And it was all about being on a stage and being seen. And it was just, you know, I felt at the time like, oh, it's just an ego thing. But now I realize that was the truth of my soul. And that's everybody's truth, you know, like you are,
because you had to be out there. Exactly. And you had to be someone who was comfortable being out there so you can get that message out. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and I've just always been a big fat show off. And again, you know, so many times we're taught that that's a bad thing. Luckily for me, my parents happen to think it's a great thing. They're big fat show offs as well. We're an entire family of big fat show offs. And so
that's great.
I was never crushed as a child. And hence now I'm a confidence coach, because my crisis of confidence came when I lost my voice and when I lost the path I thought I was meant to be on. And this is how I help people now. It's because, you know, you think you found your path, you think you know what you're doing, and then something takes that away. And that's when you stop and go, oh, I don't know who I am anymore. And I know that always happens for you. Like everything happens for us. There's so much that we don't see. There's so much going on that we don't understand as humans. And it's my job to let people know, like, your life isn't over just because that door closed. You know, you didn't lose your value just because you lost the ability to sing or walk or speak or like whatever your thing might be. And I had put so much of my self-worth in my ability to sing, which is kind of hilarious given that I wasn't really that great at it. If you listen to recordings of me, even when I was 19, like I was only okay as a singer, but I loved to do it. And
but you
that's
love
the
it.
point.
Yeah.
Just love it. And I love it still. And, you know, now I actually teach people, like, lean into the imperfections. Like even in my membership, I just announced this morning that I'm going to give a prize for the best outtakes on the recordings that they send me. Because
that is going to be so much fun to listen to.
Well, it was because my husband recorded something this morning and he put in the headphones and then didn't realize the volume was full volume. So the whole recording was just him going, shit, like, you know, and like expletives and stuff. So I was like, you know, embrace the imperfections. They're hilarious. And I'm a warrior of joy. So I feel like that's, you know, completely okay.
It's brilliant. I love that. I love it.
This has been such an amazing conversation as ever. You know, I just feel like I call in the best people on this podcast. So thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. So I have to ask you, do you have a favorite song ever?
Oh my God, to sing or to listen to?
To listen to.
Okay, well, one of the best songs, and this is the thing about music, right? And I'd love to know from the people listening if you have this as well. Music speaks to your soul, and we speak through music as well. I truly believe that when you sing, you are led to sing the songs that allow your soul to speak your truth, and it allows you to process emotions that you wouldn't otherwise be able to process.
Yes,
And
yes.
there are just certain songs that the minute I hear them start, I get covered in goosebumps, and I'm like, oh yes. And one of those songs for me is called I Can Explain, and it's by a singer called Rochelle Farrell. It's about 8 minutes long, and holy moly, like I can hear it now and I'm covered in goosebumps. Like that's another one of my superpowers, by the way. I can hear music in my head. I don't even need to have it playing. And the very first line, I just feel everything leave me, like all my worries, all of my stress. Like the first line, I'm like,
it's incredible.
It's an amazing song. And aside from that, she's the most ridiculous vocalist. You have to listen to it. Like she does things in that song. What's the name of it? It's called I Can Explain.
Okay.
And her name is Rochelle Farrell. I'll put a link in the show notes, you guys.
I would love to listen to this. Okay.
Just when you think she's not going to do anything else ridiculous, it gets more ridiculous. Like she puts Beyonce in the shade, and I think Beyonce is amazing. But she
now
is
I have to listen.
Phenomenal song. But the vibe of it is so chilled, and I just love it. Yeah, but that's just one. I mean, I have so many like that. We'd be here for hours if I listed them all.
We'll have to do another podcast.
Well, I'll tell you what I will do, guys. I will put a link in the show notes to some of my playlists, and then you can get in the Lily vibe. I have an inspirational playlist. I just made a playlist of all my favorite albums ever. And there's songs I love to sing to, songs I love to dance to. I've got funky favorites, which is all my Jill Scott, Angie Stone, Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. She's got a set of pipes, right?
A set of pipes. And oh God, yeah, just so many. I feel like I need to tag all of these singers. If they want to come on my podcast, Shaka Khan, come on my podcast. Alicia Keys, Beverly Knight, Mary J. Blige, I want you all. Get on it.
I would love to see that happen for you.
I tell you what, I realized recently that there's another podcast platform that allows us to make episodes now with music, and that is something I'm going to be rolling out next year. That's awesome. You guys are going to be able to get into I don't know what we'll call that podcast, but each week I'm just going to share some of my favorite songs and talk about them. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well.
It's brilliant.
I just love this so much. Just before you go, let's tell them about the freebie that you've offered.
Absolutely. So it's called the 8% of Transformation, and we go through our 8% rule. And the reason why, so many of us feel stuck and like we can't make a change, right? And that's because we get overwhelmed. And so we teach our clients how to do it 8% at a time. And we have a whole framework of the emotions that you go through as you transform. Mm-hmm. And this guide, the 8% of Transformation, walks you through that.
Perfect. That's so generous. Thank you. And we're going to put the link to that in the show notes as well as all of the other links. So if people want to connect with you, Mimi, they can find you. Are you on Instagram? You said you love Pinterest and Instagram. So how can they find you?
Yes. So we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Just Gen X, The Resting Mind. So please join us there because we're there very often. We have an Instagram account called The Resting Mind. We are also on LinkedIn, Mimi Bishop, Jackie Gadeen. You can get us there. So those are a couple of places.
Lovely. And we'll put all those links, as I said, in the show notes. Mimi, thank you so much for an amazing episode.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Yes, so good. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us again. Remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. And I'm going to be back again soon with another episode. Lots of love. You've been listening to Lily Badcock on the Confidence Academy podcast, as if you didn't know that. Thank you so much for being here. Please show me some love by subscribing to the show and giving it a rate and review on iTunes. And of course, if you know anyone who needs this show in their life, please pass it on and share the love.
Now, if you have an inspiring story that you want to share on my show, then please get in touch using the link in the show notes below. And don't forget, you can hang out with me live every week in the Facebook group, so I'll look forward to seeing you there. Finally, make sure that you've joined my mailing list so I can shower you with love on the daily and give you a heads up about all of the exciting things that are happening over here in Lilyland. Things like my online choir that is now live. Grab your free trial and join the mailing list by clicking the link in the show notes or visit lilybadcock.com for all of the information. Thank you again for being here. See you again soon. Big love.